We have some fuel delivery problems on this B7 Audi A4. There's a few codes here that I scanned, but whenever we first turn the ignition on, before you start it and that fuel pump primes in the back, I can hear air hiss out, that there's a leak somewhere in the system. And whenever I fill the tank up, I smell a little bit of fuel leaking out. There's that lingering fuel smell. And where that's coming from is a loose tank seal. Remove the back seat, and this is actually a pretty easy process. If you just move the front seats forward where you have room, sit in the back seat, and then in each passenger side, just grab underneath it and pull up, and then move to the other side and do the same thing. Now this whole back seat assembly will slide out once you get it out from the seatbelt assemblies. Cover right here on the passenger side is where the fuel pump assembly is. 3 Phillips screws. And there it is. What we want to do is take off this metal ring, you unspin it and take it off. That'll loosen up the fuel assembly housing. And then underneath the fuel assembly housing and the actual tank is this rubber seal. So we'll take that off, get the rubber seal loose, just make sure it's clean on the tank side and the pump side, and put it back together and make sure it's nice and tight. And a great idea that's always good to keep in mind is when you're working around fuel systems, and especially if you're going to be using a hammer, use tools that won't cause any sparks. This is a brass hammer with a nylon handle, and I'm going to use this as the tool to actually get on the tooth, and these both won't spark. This is copper. Everything looks clean under here. I'm looking and making sure I don't see any wrinkles where it may have bound up. At the top of the seal, it does look like there's a little bit of a crack there. I spun the gasket around so I can get a better look at it. I'll take some RTV and put it on both the front and back side of the crack. And we'll take our time and put everything back together. You need to get this pushed on to all of the tabs around the circle and then tap it on. I'll add a little bit of lubrication to the slide points here. I'm using silicone grease as a little bit of a lubrication because it won't damage the rubber pieces or the plastic pieces. Now when I turn it on, in the live data, the fuel load looks pretty normal. It's not like as soon as you give it a little bit of gas, it maxes out at 100%. It's not doing that. It hovers right around 80% whenever you really get on it, and you get up to about 6,000 RPM. You know, it's up to 90%, 90 something, and that makes sense. So that looks good. And no leaks.